Okay, great. Let's look at what's happening here. You have an interesting situation here about variable overheads. You can almost think about this as it's based on labor. So we sort of think of it in exactly the same way. It's a variable cost. So we're going to treat it that way, if you like. So let's sort of see where we're starting off. So it says that you have budgeted production at 20,000. Let me just open this up a little. And you have variable production overhead. So these are overheads we're dealing with, estimated at £20 a unit on the basis of 5 hours at £4. So it means that really you believe somehow that you will, if you like, that you will sell 20,000 units and you will spend 5 hours, if you like, on this. So you believe that you're going to spend 100,000 hours. This is your budget, right? And you believe that in terms of these hours, you will be paying for each hour £4. So this is kind of this is really what we need, this £4. But let's just kind of understand what they've just told us up here first. That's your budget. And that's all well and good. Now, here's the thing. At least I know, now I am clear as to what you should be spending an hour. Again, this is really a variable cost. Think of it like labor. But the key point here is, I know that you should be spending £4 an hour. So, you know what I talked about? You have the upstairs. All this has happened upstairs. Now we're focusing on what's happening on the ground. So really, variances really ultimately are about what's happening on the ground. And when I say what's happening on the ground, we're looking at the efficiency of the workforce, or how they actually did on the ground. Now, here's the thing. It tells us that, and also what we also know is that you should be spending 5 hours, if you like, on every unit. That's kind of the issue here as well. So we have, to a certain extent, we have our standard. This is what we really want, our standard inputs. We know you should be spending 5 hours, and it should be costing £4. That's really the key here. This is just the budget, sky blue thinking. Up there, okay, how real it is, we don't know. It might have been due to also poor market research. But the key point here is this. In the end, the guys downstairs did 23,000 units. So they did 23,000 units. Wonderful. So 23,000 units, we expect them, if you like, in effect, to spend, if you like, 5 hours on each of these units. That's what we expected. That's the standard kind of expectation of time we expect, right, in terms of labor. So 23,000 times 5 gives you 15,000 hours. That's what we expected to actually happen. Well, actually, what happened was that you actually made, if you like, 104,000 hours. And that's wonderful. Oh my God, they tell us that you actually did 23,000 units, making 104,000 hours. So, as far as we can see here, there is a kind of efficiency variance, if you like. You did well. You did 11,000 hours better. That's great. But this question isn't really asking about this, right? This question is asking about expenditure. So, because we haven't done it in class, I'm just trying to show you the different parts to the thinking, but just make you think about what's really happening. So the argument here is that there are two managers. I want you to think of it like this. There are two managers downstairs. There is your production manager, who is working on resources and doing his best to use as little as possible. And then there is a purchasing manager, someone who is actually buying in the resource, if you like. So the resource here ultimately is this issue of labor hours, right? Ultimately. So the argument here is that this person believes that they can pay £4 for each hour. So I'm trying to very clearly separate the responsibilities of the purchasing manager to the production manager, so you can clearly see what's happening. And both these guys are responsible for the total variance. And really, when we're focusing on the purchasing manager only, we call this the expenditure variance. And when we're focused on the purchasing manager, we call it expenditure variance. And when we're focused on the production, or we call it an efficiency variance, because he's basically done the 23,000 units in 104,000 hours, as opposed to we expected him to spend 115 hours. But now let's see what's happening here. We expected this guy to pay £4 for each hour. So we expected him to pay £4, and of course he used 104,000 hours. He bought in 104,000 hours in the end. That's what he did. So this is one way to sort of, if you like, look at it. We could just say, well, we expected you to spend £4 on 104,000 hours. So if we do 4 times, let me just get my calculator, 4 times 104, we have 416,000 hours. So the question here is this. This is what we expected you to spend on 104,000 hours. Well, it tells us that you spent 390,000 hours. So it means that what you've been able to do, which is very good, is that you have used 26,000 hours less than what we expected, because 416 minus 319 is equal to 26,000 hours. So what am I trying to say? Without talking about formulas, when we talk about the purchasing manager who is buying in these hours, we want to focus purely on the price. Ultimately, if you spend 390 on 104 hours, that means you only really spent 390,000 divided by 104,000, which is equal to £3.75. So it means that you actually paid £3.75 for these 104,000 hours. So really the variance here is the fact that you spent 25p less on every hour that you paid. You were able to do a better negotiation. You were able to go in there and just get a bargain, but you got 104,000 hours. Because what happens here is that you're buying the hours and your people in production are using the hours to make the product. And they used 104. So you can see our focus is just, we made 23,000 units. We're not really interested in the units per se. We're interested in the resources going in. And the resource going in is labor. That's our focus right here. So I've done this kind of openly this way. So you can, your brain might want to first of all find out how much we actually spent per hour, which is £3.75. We should have spent £4.25p, and you might multiply that by this. Or you might multiply the 4 times the total to get 416 and compare that to the 390. But I'm just trying to open it up so you can think differently and see where we're going. This was about efficiency, and this was about expenditure. This question is asking in particular about expenditure. The total variance will be this variance, of course, of price, and also this variance here, which is the 11,000 hours. But we would multiply this by the standard price, because these people in production are not responsible at all for the pricing. Their focus was just on efficiency, so we have to keep it separate. So this is £44,000. You could have had a question on efficiency variance, and the answer would have been 44,000. But just to kind of give you a head start into how this works. Cool, great stuff. So I hope that helps. So you can see here, this is 26,000. He used less, so it's favorable. So it's 26,000 favorable. So the answer is C. Hope that helps.